Welcome to the Mid Week Tease with me, Adele Onyango, where I share some random and not too random thoughts on things. And in this episode, I want to talk about being delusional. This is something that might make you uncomfortable, but in a very good way. So recently I interviewed Natasha Ali. She wears so many titles, one being the chairperson of the Mombasa Law Society. And I interviewed her for our new show, Difference She Makes. So we're chatting. And at one point, almost like in between giggles, she says, I think I'm a little delusional. And she's talking about her ambition, right? And her drive to do all of these huge things, like being a woman leading the law society in Mombasa, that is a culture that's heavily patriarchal, and doing that while Muslim. Her mom did the same. So she chuckles and she's like, I go for all of these seats. Maybe I'm a little delusional. And she didn't mean delusional like detached from reality, but like that, that like stubborn belief that something big is possible. And honestly, I feel that all the time, right? Even if the timeline is tight, even if I'm not too sure of the steps of like how I'm going to make it or how I'm going to create this thing. And even if it's a room that I've never been in, or even when it's a skill that I don't necessarily have in that moment, I am like, bet I'm going to make it happen. So Natasha grew up watching her mom run a law firm in 1981, Mombasa. Okay? And she was a Muslim woman leading. So this is what Natasha saw, right? And so when it came to seeing a woman in leadership, this wasn't like beyond grasp for her. It didn't feel radical. It was possible. It felt very normal, right? And I really identified with that because I watched my mom do the same thing. Like, my mom did things that women just were not, quote unquote, allowed to do back in the day. When I was like 10, she left an unhealthy marriage. Like, she chose divorce, like court case hearings, all of that, not just like leaving the home, like going to courts, battling it out. She did this at a point where it was shunned. I remember the church not being happy about that because at the time we belonged to like a Catholic church and they have this like stupid way they look at divorce. And she did so many other things. She broke so many glass ceilings, being in top management as a woman in a financial organization. She spoke openly about her breast cancer diagnosis and journey at a point when cancer was like synonymous with death. So people would never, ever open their mouths about it because it could even cost you your job or you'd be socially shunned. She was leading this organization that was championing for change in our healthcare systems in Kenya as far as cancer support and care was concerned. So like, I also saw my mom do things. So it even fed into my delusions where I'm like, "'Tis possible. You can change your mind about marriage. You can break glass ceilings. You can lead. You can create. It is possible." That's why I feel like representation, having women in those positions, is so important, not only for like inspiration, which is where a lot of people settle in. I think it recalibrates, right? Because on a personal note, watching my mom made it such that my mind didn't see anything wrong with, in my 20s, walking on stages, in studios, in boardrooms. I was on radio when I just turned 20, right? It didn't feel impossible. I was just like, yeah, bet I can do that for sure. I had seen it. And so I want to introduce you to a psychological concept. It's called the social learning theory. And it seems like a nothing, but just from what I've shared from Natasha watching her mom, from me watching my mom, that's what this theory is. Like, we learn what is possible by observing others. When we see someone like us succeed, our brain expands its limits. It's like, oh, I have new data of what we can achieve. Ibu, increase the files, increase the files. And then there's another concept I want to introduce to you because I just learned about this one. I didn't even know it existed, right? While I was preparing for this episode. It's called the optimism bias, right? And what it means is that we often overestimate our chances of success. I think I do that a lot. And in the past, a lot of the people around me have always made it out to be this dangerous, bad thing. But research shows that optimism bias actually helps. It helps you persist longer. It helps you recover faster. It helps you take risks. It helps you try. So you're not just seated with this great idea and you never do anything about it. It helps you try. And so they found that without optimism bias, most founders wouldn't start their businesses. Most artists wouldn't even create. Most women wouldn't even apply for the job or for a grant or whatever the application is for. They wouldn't do it without optimism bias. So like there is a lot of good that comes from it. I mean, when I was talking to Natasha, she ran for chairperson 2 weeks before the elections. Talk about audacity. Talk about audacity and knowing like, Aish, this like good is going to come from this. And so maybe you need to stop calling what you're calling unrealistic unrealistic and get a good dose of optimism bias and start seeing it as very attainable. And this brings me to another thing called possible selves. There is a psychologist called Hazel Marcus who talks about possible selves, right? And this one I'm excited about because I really actually do this and I've seen so much growth in my womanhood journey when I've done this. The future version of you that you can see clearly, like not vaguely, you vividly can see her. You can see who she is. You can see what she wears. You can see what room she's in. You can see what she tolerates and what she doesn't. You can see what she doesn't apologize for anymore. Like you can see it. You see where she lives. You can see the car she drives. You can see the country she's living in or the city she's living in. You can see her daily routine. When you can see this future version of you, your brain moves towards what it can picture. And this is not about manifestation. It's like actual cognitive priming. It's not delusion. In fact, I think it's more of direction. This is the one I love because I think there was a point, and I think it was sometime last year, where I could see her. I could see her so clearly. Like I could see even the clothes she was wearing, right? And it made me start to even rethink a relationship I was in because I was just like, this babe that I can see, the future version of me, this is not the shit she would be handling. Not at all. Not at all. You know what I mean? So, possible selves. Hey, if there's one thing you remember from this episode, let it be that. And there's some other things that fascinate me. Like the more I deep dived into this topic is finding out that many women are more likely to attribute success to luck, are more likely to downplay achievements, are more likely to wait until they are 100% ready, which we know almost never happens. Whereas men, they can apply for something when they meet 60% of the qualifications, right? So the shrinking, which I think is very social, like it's a product of socialization, the shrinking is holding us back. So what if we started reaching out towards possibility, you know? And another thing I loved from my conversation with Natasha is like, yes, she believed in herself. Yes, there was this delusion, but there was also a complete community that believed in her as well, right? When she was running for chairperson. So there were phone calls, there were a WhatsApp group was formed, and then she was added into it, right? People believed in her that much. So like, yes, it starts with yourself. So internally, you have visualized your future you, and your confidence just starts increasing. Your confidence in what you're being delusional about, right? Confidence is socially contagious, right? people are going to reflect it back to you, your community that is. And they're going to look at you and be like, yes, of course she can achieve this. This is why you need to be intentional about the people around you, your community, right? And I always think about something my friend would always introduce me to people, and this is what she'd say. She's like, she runs a media conglomerate. And I'm just like, yes, what she said, you know what I mean? And there is a beauty in knowing that no woman rises alone, and you can have a community that reinforces your belief in yourself. So maybe you are not delusional, and maybe you have seen what it is you're reaching for being modeled to you before, like I did with my mom, like Natasha did with her mom. Maybe your brain is wired for optimism. Maybe you can see your possible self. Hey, that one is so sweet. And maybe your community is even holding your belief for you until yours catches up, because it happens sometimes, right? I just want you to know, like, belief in yourself is not foolish, right? It can actually be fuel. And sometimes the most radical thing a woman can do is refuse to downsize her vision to fit the room. So when you listen to this, and until we meet back on next week's Mid Week Tease, I want you to try something small. Name one thing you've been calling unrealistic. It could be a goal you have, an ambition you have, a dream you have, and you've been calling unrealistic, and you've been, rubbishing it because of that. And then just ask yourself, like, is it really delusional? Or is it possible? Because I think it's possible. Thanks for listening to the Mid Week Tease, a Legally Clueless Africa production. Episodes go out every Wednesday, and you can learn more about us by going to legallycluelessafrica.com.